Joining us now is my friend, Newsmax Contributor, John Fund. Hey, John.
Good to see you, Steve.
Good to talk to you again. Good to see you. Okay, we have two issues to discuss, and you wrote a piece today on at National Review online about the Supreme Court decision that was announced today, 5-4 decision on the Voting Rights Act, Section 4, and the left is none too pleased with it.
Well, they frankly don't have much reason to complain because their allies in Congress could have fixed this a long time ago. The problem with this part of the Voting Rights Act, everything else, by the way, stays the same, is states that had a bad voter registration record, a bad voter turnout record among minorities.
In the South mostly,
mostly in the South in 1965, are still covered by the same law, and if they want to move a polling place by 20 feet,
they have to get Justice Department approval.
And in fact, Alabama recently, it just wanted to test felons for DNA samples. Nothing to do with the voting. Under the Voting Rights Act, they had to ask permission, Mother May I, from Washington, Main Justice. Right. So this became a completely ridiculous standard. Why in the world should you be frozen like a fly in amber and treated the same way after almost 50 years? And there's really no way to escape. So the Supreme Court in 2009, in a previous case on this issue, said, we're warning you, Congress. Address this. Update your database. Make sure some states that no longer are a problem aren't covered. And they noted that Massachusetts has a bigger racial gap in terms of who votes than Mississippi does today. Congress did nothing.
And Pelosi and Reid did nothing. They were running the show.
For 2009 and all of 2010, they ran the show.
Yeah.
So Congress did nothing, and now the Supreme Court has finally said, we warned you. So now Congress has a choice. It can either start from scratch and decide certain states should be covered by this pre-clearance Mother May I provision, or we basically acknowledge, we've made a lot of racial progress, and there are all kinds of ways people can sue if there's a problem in terms of discriminatory practices. Maybe we should declare victory and go home.
Do you fear that, based on what he said today, but also based on how this administration has acted in the past, they will enforce what they want to enforce and not enforce what they don't want to enforce? And Holder has warned that he's not going to let states get away with anything. So do you think that's a signal?
Huff and puff and blow my house down. Well, look, Holder can do a lot, but I think...
I like it. Mommy May I, huff and puff. I like this. I like these.
I think, I'm basically doing all of this because Eric Holder acts like a child much of the time.
Yes.
And I think this is a childish tantrum that he's throwing. I don't think that given his diminished stature and credibility, he's going to be able to get away with making stuff up. And the bottom line is, states can't discriminate on the basis of race when it comes to voting. There are all kinds of provisions and lawsuits that you can launch if there's a legitimate one. But this penalty box where you keep states in line and basically twist the interpretation of what they can do based on your own partisan inclinations.
Yeah.
I mean, there was an example in North Carolina a couple of years ago. Black majority town. People of both races voted, we no longer want partisan city council races. We want nonpartisan. Justice Department said, no, you can't do that. The reason is, if you change from partisan to nonpartisan, minority voters won't know which party to vote for. And there's only one party that represents them.
How's that for an admission? All right, let's move on briefly with the time we have left to immigration reform. Your piece yesterday at National Review as well. The GLP will wither and die. Support is threatened if it fails to reform measures. I think that the GOP is in a lose-lose situation, but I think it's a death knell for them if they go ahead with this. I think they're going to be done for good.
Well, clearly Chuck Schumer and a lot of the Democrats who are using these scare tactics, what they really want...
They're giving free advice, though, to the Republicans. It's wonderful.
Yeah, free advice, which you always should look at carefully, because why are your adversaries giving you advice, and why should you take it? Bottom line, obviously the Democrats are going to blame the Republicans if immigration passes the Senate and fails in the House. But it's a bad bill has to die. And by the way, even previous supporters of immigration reform like Bill Kristol say, you can't pass a bill like this, it's too complex, there's not enough time to even read it.
Right.
It's been changed with 1,200 pages of amendments at the last minute. So what Chuck Schumer is saying is, we're going to have 1 million people on the mall protesting you if you do this. Well, let's see your numbers. Let's see how many of those people are actually citizens.
Yeah.
Look, I'm in favor of immigration reform. We desperately need it. The system we have now is broken. But we need mostly a guest worker system, a system where we clean up our legal immigration bottlenecks that are currently existing. The last thing many Americans need or want, including Hispanics, is a pathway to citizenship. That's not the most important thing with immigration reform.
I couldn't agree with you more. And everybody check out John Fund at National Review Online. And of course, read him at Newsmax.com, where he's a contributor.